Emily Johnson's house was located in Oak Park, a quiet residential neighborhood in the Chicago suburbs. She worked as marketing director at Philadelphia Biotech, a major pharmaceutical company. Her daily routine was to wake up at 6 in the morning, prepare breakfast for her son Ethan, and then head to the office. Her efficiency was cultivated through years of career experience. "Mom, what time are you coming home today?" 7-year-old Ethan asked while stirring his cereal with a spoon. He seemed to understand his mother's busy schedule and always asked questions considerately. "I think I can come home early today. But just in case, Daddy will prepare dinner for us," Emily answered while gently stroking her son's hair. Her husband Michael was a freelance graphic designer who worked from home. He had worked at an advertising agency when they first married, but switched to home-based work after Ethan was born. Although his income wasn't stable, it was his choice to prioritize time with his son. This choice was only possible because of Emily's stable income. "Grandpa and Grandma are coming to pick you up today," Michael said as he came downstairs. His parents had already passed away, so Emily's parents were Ethan's only grandparents. Emily's father Robert and mother Carol were both former teachers. Even after retirement, they lived in Chicago and actively helped take care of their grandson. Especially when Emily had frequent business trips, they would sometimes let Ethan stay overnight at their house. However, such support from her parents sometimes came with a heavy price. Another business trip. While the child is still young, wouldn't it be better to slow down your work pace a bit? This was Carol's constant refrain. As a former elementary school teacher, she held strong beliefs about child rearing. While she was proud of Emily's success, she often expressed harsh opinions about a mother's responsibilities. Carol's right. "In our day, it was natural for mothers to protect the home," Father Robert would often agree with his wife. As a former high school math teacher, he valued logical and orderly living. While he adored his grandson Ethan, he seemed to have doubts about Emily's way of life. Emily never argued with her parents' words. She understood their generation's values, and above all, she was grateful that they willingly took care of her grandson. However, deep in her heart, she harbored complex emotions. Sometimes she wavered between the career she had built and her role as a mother. Recently, Emily's brother David's daughter Olivia had begun showing up frequently at family gatherings. 9-year-old Olivia was 2 years older than Ethan. David and his wife were both busy with work, and they increasingly left Olivia with their parents on weekends. Bright and active, Olivia was skilled at capturing her grandparents' attention. "Olivia is really smart. Her future looks promising," Mother Carol would often say. Indeed, Olivia had excellent grades and was good at sports. Meanwhile, Ethan was an introverted child who preferred reading and drawing quietly. Ethan seemed to look forward to playing with his cousin Olivia, but lately he appeared somewhat tense when she came over. Emily had noticed this change, but didn't think deeply about it, assuming it was just children's matters. As her work responsibilities grew heavier, she was indeed missing subtle changes at home. On Thursday morning, Emily was preparing for an important business trip to Boston. She had a major presentation about marketing strategy for a new drug, and its success could be the key to her promotion. It was scheduled for 3 days, and she planned to return home Friday night. "Take care and have a safe trip," Michael saw her off at the front door. "Don't worry about Ethan. Mom and Dad will come over too." Emily hugged her son. "Be a good boy. I'll be back soon." Ethan nodded slightly. "Mom, good luck with your work." A taxi arrived, and Emily headed to the airport. After arriving at the airport, Emily went straight to her hotel. Philadelphia Biotech's new drug marketing strategy was a passionate project she had spent 3 months developing. She planned to propose an innovative approach that would differentiate them from competitors and appeal to both healthcare professionals and patients. While doing final checks on her materials in her hotel room, she received a message from Michael. "Ethan is doing well. Mom and Dad came to pick him up. Olivia is also planning to stay overnight." Emily breathed a sigh of relief. With her parents taking care of her grandson, she could focus on work. She reviewed the slide structure once more for tomorrow's presentation. In Chicago, Robert and Carol had come to pick up Ethan. Finding his grandparents waiting at the school's main gate, Ethan waved slightly. "Ethan, how was your day?" Carol asked gently. "I had a math test." "It was difficult," Ethan answered honestly. "That's okay. Grandpa is a former math teacher, so ask him if there's anything you don't understand," Robert said, placing his hand on his grandson's shoulder. In the car, Carol announced happily, "Olivia is also coming to stay tonight." "You're excited, aren't you?" Ethan smiled, but his smile was somewhat stiff. "Yes, I'm excited." When they arrived at the grandparents' house, Olivia was already there. She had spread out her homework in the living room, receiving all of her grandparents' attention. "Olivia, all your math problems are correct," Robert said admiringly. "You really are smart." "Thank you, Grandpa," Olivia smiled proudly. "I plan to get first place on the next academic test too." Carol clapped her hands. "Wonderful. Our granddaughter really is excellent." Ethan quietly took out his homework. While looking at his math worksheet and starting to solve the problems, he had trouble concentrating. His grandparents' conversation was enthusiastic about Olivia's grades and future. "Ethan, is your homework going well?" Carol turned around and asked. "It's fine," Ethan answered quietly. Actually, he was struggling with several problems, but with his grandparents absorbed in talking about Olivia, he hesitated to ask questions. At dinner time, Carol had specially made Olivia's favorite lasagna. "I made it specially because I knew Olivia was coming." "Wow, I love Grandma's lasagna," Olivia said happily. Ethan continued eating quietly. It wasn't that his grandmother didn't remember his favorite foods, but when Olivia came over, her preferences were always prioritized. This seemed natural. Olivia was older, had better grades, and was better at conversation. After dinner, the three of them decided to watch TV. Olivia naturally took the remote control and chose the program she wanted to watch. The animal show Ethan wanted to watch was postponed. "This show is what everyone at school is talking about." "It's interesting," Olivia explained. Robert laughed. "Olivia is sensitive to trends." "That's impressive." As bedtime approached, Carol began preparing the upstairs bedrooms. A bed was prepared for Olivia in the guest room, while Ethan would sleep on the small sofa bed as usual. "Olivia is tall, so the big bed would be better for her," Carol explained. Ethan said nothing. This was always how it was. When Olivia came, she became the main character. He thought this was natural. The next morning in Boston, Emily was making final preparations. At the Marriott Hotel presentation venue, with important figures from the pharmaceutical industry gathered, she confidently took the stage. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your valuable time today," Emily's voice resonated through the venue. The 3-hour presentation was even more successful than expected. Regarding the new drugs market introduction strategy, participants asked positive questions one after another. "Ms. Johnson, this is a wonderful plan. I'd definitely like to discuss the details individually," an executive from a major hospital chain approached her. Emily savored the joy inwardly. This success would be a big step toward promotion. It was a moment when years of effort bore fruit. Meanwhile, in Chicago, a small change was occurring. It happened while Ethan and Olivia were playing in the backyard of their grandparents' house. "Ethan, I can run faster than you," Olivia said challengingly. "I'm fast too," Ethan responded. The two ran around the yard, but Olivia was indeed faster. Next, she made another proposal.
"Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I do it 2 link below if you're curious."
"Now let's have a tree climbing contest." There was a large oak tree in the backyard. Ethan hesitated a bit. He wasn't good with heights, but he felt reluctant to decline Olivia's challenge. "What's wrong? Are you scared?" Olivia said provocatively. "I'm not scared," Ethan answered with determination. The two began climbing the tree. Olivia climbed higher and higher with practiced ease. Ethan tried desperately to keep up, but halfway up, his foot nearly slipped. "Isn't this enough?" Ethan said anxiously. "Not yet. I can go much higher," Olivia continued climbing without concern. Just then, Carol came out to the yard. "Oh my, what are you two doing?" "Tree climbing contest, Grandma," Olivia called down from above. "My, Olivia, you really are active. But be careful," Carol looked up admiringly. Ethan had stopped on a branch partway up. "Grandma, I'm coming down now." "That's right," Ethan is cautious. "That's important too," Carol said gently. However, those words seemed to contain a comparison between Olivia's bravery and Ethan's passivity. Ethan quietly climbed down from the tree and looked up at Olivia as she proudly climbed to the highest branch. In the afternoon, Robert began teaching Olivia. "Olivia, can you solve this math problem?" "That's easy, Grandpa," Olivia answered confidently. Ethan tried to participate too, but the problem level was too high for him to understand. His grandfather focused on his granddaughter and barely paid attention to Ethan. In the evening, Emily called Michael. The presentation was a huge success. "I plan to return tomorrow night." "That's great. Ethan is doing well too. He's having fun at Mom and Dad's place." Emily felt relieved. With family support, she could concentrate on work. Tomorrow she had a final business meeting, and she wanted to make the results of this trip certain. That night at the grandparents' house, Ethan and Olivia were preparing for bed in the upstairs bedroom. Perhaps from the day's fatigue, Ethan's expression looked somewhat downcast. Olivia was still energetic as always, talking about tomorrow's plans. "Tomorrow we're going to the park," Grandma said. "I'm excited," Olivia said. "Yes," Ethan answered briefly. Carol came upstairs and gave both children goodnight kisses. "Sweet dreams." The lights went out, and silence enveloped the room. Ethan stared at the ceiling, thinking about his mother. Friday afternoon in Boston was truly a moment of victory for Emily. The final business meeting went smoothly, and she received positive responses from 3 major hospital chains. The executives at Philadelphia Biotech also highly praised her achievements. "Ms. Johnson, excellent work. This success will be a major turning point for the company," Vice President Tom Wilson offered his hand for a handshake. "Thank you. It's the result of the entire team's efforts," Emily said modestly while inwardly experiencing a great sense of accomplishment. At 6 in the evening, a celebratory dinner began at Ocean Prime, a high-end restaurant overlooking Boston Harbor. The view of the harbor at sunset was beautiful, and Emily felt freed from work pressure for the first time in a while. "We'll prepare detailed contracts by Monday." This presentation was among the highest level I've seen. An executive from a partner company proposed a toast. Emily raised her wine glass and celebrated success with her colleagues. Talk of promotion had begun to become concrete, and years of effort were about to pay off. She wanted to share the good news with her Chicago family soon. Around 7:30, when the main dish was being served, Emily's cell phone rang. Ethan's name appeared on the screen. She was a bit surprised, but calls from her son weren't unusual. He probably wanted to report on his day's activities. "Excuse me, it's from my son. I'll step away briefly," Emily told her dining companions and answered the phone. "Ethan? What's wrong, honey?" What came through the phone wasn't Ethan's usual bright voice. It was a trembling voice, as if he was about to cry. "Mom. What's wrong? Did something happen?" Anxiety crossed Emily's chest. Mom, I fell from the second floor. Ethan's voice was weak, as if he was enduring pain. Emily's heart began beating violently. What did you say? Ethan, are you okay? Where does it hurt? My left arm hurts so much. I can't move it. Clear suffering was evident in her son's voice. Where are Grandpa and Grandma? You need to go to the hospital right away. Emily stood up and headed outside the restaurant. Grandma said, it's fine, but it really hurts, Mom. I understand. Put Grandma on the phone right away. After waiting a while, her mother Carol's voice came through, in her usual calm tone. Emily. Ethan is making a big fuss over nothing. He just fell down a little. Just fell down. He's saying he fell from the second floor. Emily's voice was becoming increasingly strained. Carol laughed lightly. Oh, he said that. He just slipped down a few steps on the stairs. Boys always exaggerate everything, don't they? Don't you remember? Your brother used to make a big fuss over little injuries when he was small too. But he says his arm hurts. He might have bumped it a little, but I put ice on it, so it's fine. He stopped crying and is watching TV now. Emily tried to take a deep breath, but her anxiety didn't disappear. Could you take him to the hospital just in case? Emily, you're being overprotective too. Children get stronger by having little injuries. As teachers, we've seen hundreds of children. Going to the hospital over something like this would be laughable. Carol's words were confident, as if based on years of experience. But don't worry. Dad also said no problem. Olivia is there too, so Ethan cheered up. When children play together, things like this happen often. From the other end of the phone, TV sounds could be heard. Indeed, Ethan's crying wasn't audible. Are you really sure it's okay? Yes, it's fine. You're coming home tomorrow night, right? When you see him then, I think he'll be perfectly fine. Emily hesitated. Her parents were education professionals with experience seeing many children. Indeed, from the phone conversation, she couldn't sense any urgency. I understand. But if anything seems wrong, contact me immediately. Of course. Don't worry and focus on your work. After hanging up, Emily returned to the restaurant. Her colleagues noticed her worried expression. Are you okay? Did something happen? Tom asked. My son fell down a little. But I think he's fine. Emily tried to smile, but anxiety smoldered deep in her heart. The celebratory dinner continued, but Emily's heart wasn't completely there. She couldn't really taste the food and had trouble concentrating on conversation. Ethan's trembling voice wouldn't leave her head. Around 9 o'clock, as dinner was ending, Emily called home again. This time her father answered. This is Robert. Dad, it's me. How is Ethan? Oh, Emily. He's already asleep. There was no problem at all. Just as Carol said, he was making a big fuss over nothing. Really? Is his arm okay? It might be swollen a little, but children are like that. When I was young, I often got injured, but after sleeping one night, it would be healed. Robert's voice was full of confidence, mixing his experience as a former teacher with masculine optimism. But if the swelling doesn't go down? Emily, you've become too worried since becoming a mother. You're successful at work, but you're too nervous about child rearing. Children are much stronger. Emily was at a loss for words. Indeed, lately she had a tendency to worry excessively about her son. Because she was often away from home for work, she might have become overprotective due to guilt. I understand. But first thing tomorrow morning, check on him, and if you're worried, contact me. Of course. Don't worry and work hard on the rest of your business. Even after hanging up, Emily's anxiety didn't completely disappear. However, with her parents' confident words and the fact that her son's crying could no longer be heard, she gradually tried to reassure herself. At 11 p.m., back at the hotel, Emily made one last call to Michael. "Good work. How was dinner?" Michael's voice sounded sleepy. "It was successful. But I heard Ethan got hurt and I'm worried." "Oh, Mom contacted me. He slipped on the stairs. But she said he was fine." "Aren't you worried?" "Of course I'm worried, but I think it's okay with Mom and Dad there. They were teachers for many years, so they can judge children's injuries." Michael's words made sense too. Emily took a deep breath and tried to suppress her anxiety. "You're right. Maybe I'm being too neurotic. You're tired. Sleep early tonight, and when you come home tomorrow night, you can check then." After hanging up, Emily lay in bed but couldn't fall asleep easily. Her son's words, "Mom, I fell from the second floor, it hurts," repeated over and over in her head. Around 2 in the morning, Emily made a decision. Regardless of what her parents said, she should trust her instincts as a mother. She opened the airline's website and searched for early flights the next day. "I'll go home on the first flight tomorrow morning." Emily booked a 7 a.m. flight on Saturday. It would be half a day earlier than originally planned, but she wanted to be by her son's side. Even if her parents called her overprotective, she wanted to see with her own eyes. Saturday afternoon, the taxi carrying Emily was heading toward her parents' house in the Chicago suburbs. She had taken the first flight of the morning and thought only about her son during the flight. "Is this address correct?" the driver confirmed. "Yes, this is it." Emily quickly paid the fare and got out of the taxi. Her parents' house was quiet, with nothing apparently different from the outside. In the yard were traces of children's play, and small shoe prints remained under the oak tree. Emily took a deep breath and pressed the front doorbell. "Emily." The one who opened the door was her mother Carol. Clear surprise and slight agitation could be seen in her expression. "Why? It's not time for you to come home yet. I was worried about Ethan, so I changed to an earlier flight." "Where is my son?" Carol hesitated for a moment. "He's watching TV in the living room." "But Emily, it's not as serious as you think." Emily interrupted her mother's words and entered the house. And the scene she witnessed in the living room left her speechless. Ethan's left arm, lying on the sofa, was bent at a clearly unnatural angle. The entire arm was swollen purple, with abnormal bulging visible from wrist to elbow. Her son had a pale face and was moaning softly. "Ethan." Emily rushed to her son's side. "Mom?" Ethan weakly opened his eyes. "You came back." "Yes, honey. Mommy's here, so it's okay." Emily placed her hand on her son's forehead. "He had a fever." "Where does it hurt?" "My arm hurts so much." "Since yesterday, constantly." Ethan's voice was tearful. Emily trembled with anger and fear. This was clearly a fracture. Why hadn't her parents taken him to the hospital? "Mom, Dad. Call an ambulance right away." Emily turned around and shouted. "Emily, calm down." Robert came into the living room. "There's no need to make such a big deal of it." "Big deal? Look at this arm. It's clearly fractured." Emily's voice trembled with anger. Carol said with a troubled expression, "But it wasn't swollen like this last night. When he woke up this morning it was a little swollen, but I thought it would heal with time." "Your son was in pain all night. Why didn't you take him to the hospital?" "He was crying, but children are like that." Olivia also said, "Ethan's a crybaby, didn't she?" Emily was aghast. "What did Olivia say?" Just then, Olivia came down the stairs and stood at the living room entrance with a guilty expression. "Olivia, come here," Emily called in a quiet but stern voice. The 9-year-old niece approached fearfully. "What happened yesterday?" tell me the truth." Olivia looked around at her grandparents' faces, then said in a small voice, "Ethan is lying. He just fell down the stairs." "Olivia," Emily's voice became even sterner. "Ethan says he fell from the second floor." "What happened?" After a long silence, tears welled up in Olivia's eyes. "We were just playing. We were playing hide and seek. And then, on the second floor hallway, Ethan found my hiding place, so I—" Olivia's voice was trembling. "What did you do?" "I pushed him, just a little. But I didn't know it was near the stairs." Olivia finally confessed the truth. "Ethan rolled down the stairs. But I didn't do it on purpose." The living room was enveloped in silence. Robert and Carol's faces had turned pale. Emily took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "So you believed Olivia's story and didn't take my son to the hospital?" "Emily, Olivia isn't a child who lies," Carol said protectively. "It must have been an accident. Even if it was an accident, leaving a child who fell from the second floor alone all night." Emily took out her cell phone. "I'm calling an ambulance right now." "Wait," Robert raised his hand. "An ambulance is excessive. Let's take him to the hospital by car. It's too late. He needs treatment as soon as possible." During the 15 minutes until the ambulance arrived, Emily continued holding her son's hand. Ethan was conscious but clearly weakened. "Mom, does Olivia hate me now?" Ethan asked quietly. "That's not true. You did nothing wrong." Emily stroked her son's hair. "But Grandpa and Grandma said I was a liar." Emily's heart tightened. "You didn't lie. Mommy understands everything." The doctor's diagnosis was serious. Both the radius and ulna in the left arm are fractured. Moreover, because more than 24 hours have passed, the bones have shifted out of position, a young doctor explained. "Surgery is needed immediately." "Surgery?" Emily's face turned pale. "Fortunately, there doesn't seem to be major damage to nerves or blood vessels, but surgery is the only way to put the bones back in proper position. If you had come yesterday, a cast alone might have been sufficient." The doctor's words weighed heavily on Emily's heart. "Doctor, how much pain was this child in?" "I think it was considerable pain. It would be difficult even for adults to endure." "He endured it well." The doctor gently patted Ethan's head. The surgery lasted 3 hours. Emily continued waiting in front of the operating room. Her parents also came to the hospital, but she didn't speak a word to them. Michael also rushed over and put his arm around his wife's shoulder. "It's okay, Ethan is a strong child." After the successful surgery, there was a detailed explanation from the doctor. The surgery was successful. However, because it's a fracture during the growth period, it will take time to completely return to normal. There were also complications that could have been avoided with proper treatment. Emily bowed her head to the doctor. "I'm sorry for making my son suffer." That night, while Ethan was sleeping in the hospital room, Emily faced her parents. "Mom, Dad, why didn't you believe him?" "My son's words." Carol answered in a tearful voice, "Olivia was so dear to us, we never thought she would lie." "But Ethan is equally your dear grandson, isn't he?" Robert opened his heavy mouth. "Olivia was special to us. Her grades are good, she's active. So it was okay to ignore Ethan's pain." Emily's voice was quiet but filled with anger. Her parents couldn't answer anything. "From today, I will never leave my son with you again," Emily said firmly. "And visits with Olivia will also be restricted for the time being." "Emily, that's—" Carol said through tears. "My son's safety comes first. If you can't love your grandchildren equally, I will protect him." 3 months later, on an afternoon, Emily was at a nearby park with Ethan. Her son still had a cast on his left arm, but according to the doctor, his recovery was progressing well. His smile had also gradually returned since that terrible night. "Mom, do you think the cast will come off at the next checkup?" Ethan asked while sitting on a swing. "I'm sure it will. The doctor said soon, didn't he?" Emily sat on the swing next to her son. Since that night, Emily's life had changed dramatically. First, she fundamentally reconsidered her relationship with her parents. A week later, she called her parents and her brother David's family to hold a family meeting. "We need to properly discuss Olivia pushing Ethan down the stairs," Emily began calmly. Her brother's wife Sarah turned pale. "We heard from Olivia. We're truly sorry. The problem isn't that an accident happened," Emily continued. "The problem is how it was handled afterward." David asked with a confused expression, "What do you mean?" Emily looked at her parents. Mom and Dad unconditionally believed Olivia's words and decided that Ethan's pain was acting. "If you can't love your grandchildren equally, I must protect my son." As a result, visits with her parents were limited to once a month, only under Emily or Michael's supervision. For Olivia, treatment by a professional counselor became a condition. "Olivia isn't a bad child," Carol said through tears. "She's just very competitive." "That's exactly why appropriate guidance is needed," Emily answered sternly. "And you also need to face your own prejudices." The biggest change was in Emily's own way of working. As a result of the successful presentation, the promotion talk had become concrete, but she set conditions. "I need to increase the percentage of remote work and reduce the frequency of business trips." The company accepted her demands. Emily's track record and abilities made her worth securing even with such conditions. In her new position, 3 days of home-based work per week became possible, and business trips were reduced to about once a month. "I'm happy that Mom is home more," Ethan often said. Michael also changed. He organized his freelance work and began sharing the family's financial burden by securing more stable contracts. Currently, the relationship with her parents was gradually being repaired. Robert and Carol were facing their own prejudices while receiving advice from a professional counselor. "We were wrong," Carol apologized through tears at last month's visit. "We made Ethan suffer, and we're truly sorry." Robert also bowed his head deeply. "I thought we loved our grandchildren equally, but actually we didn't. We were blinded by Olivia's talents and overlooked Ethan's good qualities." Ethan himself was also healing his emotional wounds while receiving counseling. At first he was afraid of his grandparents, but he was gradually rebuilding the relationship. "I understand that Grandpa and Grandma love me too," Ethan said recently. "I didn't understand before." Olivia's situation was more complex. While receiving professional treatment, she was also showing changes. The other day, she met Ethan for the first time under Emily's supervision. "Ethan, I'm sorry," Olivia apologized in a small voice. "I didn't do it on purpose, but I hurt you." Ethan answered gently, "I'm not angry anymore. But don't push me again, okay?" Sitting on the park swing, Emily reflected on the past 3 months. Her son's injury was a painful event, but it was also true that it brought family problems to the surface and led toward resolution. "Mom, Grandpa and Grandma are coming this Sunday, right?" Ethan said happily. "Yes, that's right. We're planning to go to the park together. I'm looking forward to it. They promised to bring my favorite animal book this time." Emily smiled. Family healing was a time-consuming process, but it was definitely moving forward. And most importantly, Ethan's smile had returned, which was worth all the effort. When the sunset colored the park, mother and son walked home hand in hand. Emily Johnson was beginning to walk a new chapter of her life, both as a mother and as a woman.